Hey Richard,
Hey AJ,
why did Godzilla smell real bad?
why?
Because he forgot to take a shower.
You've been holding on to that for a few weeks, have you?
Yeah, well, no, I thought about it the other day and then I tried thinking of one for Heisei, but nothing really sprung to mind as much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you in your head you were like trying to think of shower jokes, and you're like, oh, hey, say this.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't get that, but then I got it.
Oh, nice.
Well done.
You've got a little bit of food in your beard. Just
I haven't
further
eaten.
around. Well, I don't know what it is then.
It's probably
yesterday's food. We did it.
What did we do?
The critics said it would never happen, but we're here.
Yeah. What did we do? I can't. I have no recollection of the past
Well, so
4 weeks.
okay. Well, this is a podcast called Film Franchise Fortnights,
Okay.
and I'm Richard Martin.
And I'm Alexander Jones.
Yeah. So
But you know what? We're friends, so you can call me AJ.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we do this podcast, okay?
yeah.
And we
What?
watch a different film
Yes.
franchise every fortnight. But because it's a special occasion, we landed on Godzilla,
Yeah.
and we've been watching them for a month
Why?
because there are 31 of them.
What?
Yeah, but thankfully for us, they're divided into like different time periods.
Yep.
And we just did watch the last one.
Yeah, we watched the last time period, but it's like a time period we made up out of like the fact that they're not really categorized. This was like the miscellaneous stragglers left
Yeah.
over,
Yeah, and then thankfully there was only 2 of them.
Yeah.
So we've gone from like 15
which was the Showa period,
to 7
which was the Heisei period,
to 7.
which was the Millennium period, plus the 1998 remake, American remake, reboot.
And then the miscellaneous, which is actually like weirdly enough is like the Monsterverse
Yeah.
plus the Toho reboot period. It's kind
Yeah.
of being called at the moment.
Cool.
So the films we watched were Godzilla,
Yeah.
2014, and Shin Godzilla, which came out a year ago today,
As of this recording.
as of this recording.
That's pretty amazing. We didn't plan that.
Yeah.
But you know what? When there's 31 of something, it's bound to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's probably
like
not
if any
bad.
of them came out in July, we'll probably
Yeah.
line up. So normally I would have spaced out saying those more, but so that you could give a little, how do you say, kind of a plot synopsis.
Yeah, sure.
Throughout. But because there's only 2, I just thought I'd crack right into it.
Okay.
And speaking of cracking right into things, we're opening our last 2 root beers. Now, last week we kind of shat all over Godzilla purists by putting the 1998 Godzilla in with the Millennium series. And this week we're kind of shitting all over the Film Franchise Fortnights purists. Because as you might have heard, we were drinking A&W root beer, and now we're drinking Bundaberg Sarsaparilla. It's ostensibly the same drink, but I actually prefer this.
People have stopped listening when they heard it was sarsaparilla. Goodbye, listeners. If you came here for the A&W root beer, goodbye.
Oh,
I've spoken before about my distaste for root beer in general.
yeah. And this sarsaparilla,
It's like a worse root beer. So
I love sarsaparilla, dude.
why? Why do you love this?
I don't know.
I remember in my primary school, people used to call sarsaparilla SARS.
Yeah, well, that was what it was called. One of them, there was like a golden circle. The cans just said SARS on them.
And then
And then obviously SARS happened. So anyway, speaking of
yeah,
like big things that impacted Asia, Godzilla.
I thought you were going to talk about your trip to Vietnam.
So the first one we watched was just called Godzilla.
Yep.
Came out in 2014.
Yeah.
So that was directed by Gareth Edwards, who later went on to direct Rogue One, A Star Wars Story.
Yeah.
And most likely chosen to direct this film because he directed a film called Monsters, which is about giant monsters, but it focuses on like the human kind of story. Yeah. And that features, in terms of monsters, it features some new ones called, they're referred to as MUTOs, which stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism.
Yeah.
There's a male and a female of those, so the male can fly and the female's big.
Bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's that one about, AJ?
That one is about, so there was in 1999, some scientists discover in the Philippines that there was like some kind of cataclysmic monster like left this cavern, and they're not quite sure what happened to it. And what it actually did was it left the cavern because it was disrupted by miners, and ended up going to the nearest nuclear reactor because it feeds on nuclear energy, and this was in Japan, and it actually caused a meltdown. Is that the right terminology? Yeah, a meltdown in this reactor where a couple of people died, including for at least the first part of the film, main character's wife died, and 15 years later, the main character's son is all grown up and joined the army, and now he's the main character, and he goes to take care of his dad, who's been arrested for continually, trying to get to the bottom of what happened that day in 1999, and it ends up being that the thing that disrupted the nuclear plant was actually one of the MUTOs, as you put it.
Well, as the movie puts it.
Yeah, as the movie
I didn't
puts
come
it.
up with that.
And so both of them wake up and start wreaking havoc across the world. And then Godzilla, who, again, is his origins mostly the same. He's a radioactive mutated lizard from the Bikini Atoll bombings.
First sort of came about in 1954.
Yeah.
Which is... It's not like keeping the canon of the originals or anything like that. It's more like a nod to the audience, like a wink to the audience.
Yeah. And so the new Godzilla basically swims across the ocean and turns up to stop the MUTOs, who are, as I said, destroying the city. And there's a whole human story in there that's not particularly interesting or worth talking about.
Yeah. Well, the human story is interesting to begin with, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah, so that's that film. And the second one we watched is called Shin Godzilla, or sometimes also referred to as Godzilla Resurgence for our plebeian listeners who, can't handle subtitles.
Like us.
Yeah. No, we actually watched Shin Godzilla. We actually paid for it. We bought it on we rented it on YouTube because it was like the only copy we could find that was like the full 2-hour version subbed. And so it was directed by Hideaki Anno. I hope I'm saying that name right. Who some people might know from his work on creating the anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Makes sense.
And so apparently he was actually approached to direct quite early on, like sort of 2013, really? But turned it down because he'd fallen into a depression after completed work on Evangelion 3.0 and got into the mindset of like, there's no way I can top the original.
Right.
So, but then obviously he came around and
tried to
produce the film.
Yeah.
And also this film, in terms of monsters, features none other than Godzilla, which is the only film other than the original to just have Godzilla.
Wow, that's interesting. Cool.
What's it about?
So that movie is about we're in Japan and there's all this like activity happening in the ocean, and they're like, what is this seismic activity? And then a giant monster crawls out of the ocean, kind of looks like I should throw my bottle cap. Kind of looks like a snapping turtle, like a giant snapping turtle.
At first, this tail comes out.
Yeah,
it's like an eel.
Yeah, it looks like an eel with a body.
Yeah,
and it's also really big. And then eventually that evolves into the familiar design of Godzilla, which again starts just destroying, rampaging through the city, through Japan, and yeah, it's eventually it destroys. Probably more of Japan is destroyed in this movie than anyone before.
Yeah, the destruction of this is like Man of Steel level.
Worse, like 2-3 Man of Steels, basically.
Yeah. That's like 49/11.
Yeah. And And eventually, the government decide they need to drop a bomb on Godzilla, which obviously is a sore subject in Japan, though I guess a sore subject probably anywhere. Probably no city probably wants to have a bomb dropped on them. But yeah, they decide to nuclear bomb Tokyo, I think. It's in Tokyo, right? Yeah, to get rid of Godzilla. But just then the crack team of scientists come up with an idea where they can spray a coagulated formula into Godzilla's mouth if they can get to it, which will freeze him. And they manage to do that, and Godzilla gets frozen like a statue in the middle of Tokyo.
And he's just a permanent part of Tokyo's skyline.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting way to end your film. And the thing about that film as well is that it completely just follows the government.
Yeah.
And it's like a fast talking political satire.
Which worked and didn't work in some places.
Yeah, it's the most dialogue heavy Godzilla film. And I don't know, I guess I liked it because it's kind of like you have you seen Contagion?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
It's like the Contagion of Godzilla films, where it's it's not so much about look at how devastated this family is. It's because Contagion is like Matt Damon's wife is patient zero, and it's not, the film isn't about Matt Damon's so sad. It's about how the world reacts and how the government reacts to this virus and containing it. And so the virus is the main character, whereas in this one, it's the information is the main character. The idea. Yeah. It's really interesting, and it's the kind of thing I would have rolled my eyes at if they did in the Showa series or something like that. I don't think I could have followed it then, but just the way it was done here, I really liked it. I know you weren't necessarily
it was cool,
head over heels for it, but
I mean I didn't really like any of the Godzilla films, so this is still probably in my top 3 or 4. What is interesting about this in terms of the legacy of our Little Wee podcast as well is that this might be the first, I know it's a sub-franchise, but let's say first episode, selection of movies for an episode that aren't really related in any way. So what
Godzilla has nothing to do with Shin Godzilla.
Oh man, I'm sorry for my burps. We're not drinking another root beer after this episode. This is restricted to Godzilla.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm sort of imagining this proceeding, what's after?
This following
conversation will be more about taking what we know about the previous 29 films of Godzilla, and we've now seen both America's modernized version of that, and now we've seen Japan's modernized version of that. So don't let this be your first episode, I guess. This is very much one that I feel for the philosophy of this podcast, which is what is a franchise, how does it work, what does it do, how does it impact how we make movies. This is very much feels like an epilogue to the previous 3 episodes, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I'll just throw out all my notes there. It is it's interesting because it's kind of both. Okay, so do you know what Shin Godzilla means?
No.
So this will be interesting. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
So Shin Godzilla, sort of roughly the most sort of general translation is that it translates to True Godzilla.
Right.
And so a lot of people see this as a Toho's middle finger to Legendary's produced the 2014 one. But it's actually, the term was chosen because it can mean true, new, or even God.
Right.
So it's ultra mega Godzilla kind of thing. And they Toho approved of the 2014 film. They liked it. They said and because Godzilla was now back in the public mind, they thought, well, this is our time to do our one. And then they purposely did the opposite. So whereas in Legendary's one, he was very much a defender, and he goes out of his way not to hurt people.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, he's just this merchant of death.
Yeah.
And destruction, and is the most deadly he's been in all 31 appearances. But yeah, Toho approved of the film. They originally didn't. They just gave the rights to the character of Godzilla. Because obviously after what happened last time, but then I guess they've earned the rights now because Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah are going to be in the sequel.
Cool, that's good.
Yeah.
What of the two films we watched for this podcast did you like the most?
So I'd seen the 2014 one before.
Yeah.
And I've been, ever since we've got this franchise, I have been really looking forward to watching Shin Godzilla, because I almost went to see it in the cinema last year.
Yeah.
But I was like, it was only out for like 4 days and I just didn't get around to it. So I'm really looking forward to watching it. And, like, I mean, it didn't disappoint me at all. I really enjoyed it. And I guess it's like the enjoyable new versus the, like, enjoyable old. So, yeah, I mean, I there are more obvious faults with the 2014 one, like, more, like, pinpointable faults than in the Shin Godzilla, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I could tell you, I don't like that this happens in 2014, whereas I couldn't do it so much with Shin Godzilla. Maybe that's just because I've only seen it just once.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would say... because I saw the 2014 Godzilla when it first came out. I really liked it. I thought that there's some really cool stuff in it. And then it was one of those falls from grace where the next day I went to work and everyone was talking about how much they hated it, and like slowly the cracks started to reveal themselves to me. I was like, that's a good point, that was pretty dumb,
Yeah.
And so until rewatching it, I'd kind of had like a bad taste in my mouth about it, almost as bad as Sarsaparilla. And Kong Skull Island, which of course is
Part 2 of the Monsterverse.
Yeah, so it's set in the same universe as the 2014 Godzilla. Didn't really impress me either. But after watching Godzilla 2014 again, I would say it's better than Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
In terms of Shin Godzilla, I liked what it was as an experiment to do like a government information, as you said, based episode almost. I thought that was really cool. I thought it's the coolest Godzilla's ever looked.
Yeah.
Was in this one, and he wasn't. This was CGI as well. He wasn't.
It was actually a mix of suit and CGI. Yeah.
So if you're not Google ready, what Shin Godzilla looks like is he kind of looks like an eel. He reminds me of an eel because his eyes are like real like wide circles to begin with, and then even when he's fully Godzilla form, they're very beady little circular fishy eyes.
Yeah. But he's very like, he's this charcoal when he's in his final form.
Yeah.
He's like charcoal black, but all the kind of so that his texture, like the peaks are charcoal, but then the valleys are red.
Yeah, so he kind of looks like a recovering burn victim.
Yeah.
Like he's got like, it looks like he's a big scab that's cracking.
Yeah, but in a cool way. Like it looks like he's seen some shit.
Yeah, and then obviously when he charges up and fires his laser breath, it not only comes out his mouth, but it also comes out a lot of the cracks in his body. It comes out his tail, comes out his spines. Yeah.
So it's funny because you did the atomic breath. I think everyone can agree the coolest scene in the 2014 one, if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about, is the atomic breath scene.
Describe it.
So our hero, Ford Brody, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. We haven't mentioned the cast of these films, but we'll do them as we go.
Yeah.
Ford Brody, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I've spoken about on this podcast before.
Spoken to directly.
He's about to get killed by one of the Mutos, and then in the background you see a couple of little spikes of blue light up, and then the camera follows them up as like more and more of them light up, and we're just getting this massive blue, and you realise what's happening is that Godzilla's charging up his atomic breath. And then eventually it gets to the top of Godzilla, all his dorsal fins are bright blue, and then boom, shoots atomic breath at the Muto.
Yeah.
And then there's another scene later on when he basically grabs the female Muto's mouth, holds it open, and spits fire down its throat.
Like a bird would feed its chicks.
Yeah.
If the bird wanted to burn the insides of its chick's body.
So they had that cool scene. It's almost like Toho were like, why is their atomic breath scene cooler than anything we've ever done? And so they did probably my favourite scene in the whole franchise, is when Shin Godzilla starts doing his atomic breath.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the atomic breath's always been kind of, it acts more like water than anything, I find.
Okay.
Whereas it should be, because it like just kind of it's this like bright blue,
like a fireman's hose.
Yeah, and like so it shoots out, but then it just kind of bounces off stuff. Whereas in Shin Godzilla, it acts more like a lightsaber, and that it's unstoppable, which is what it should be.
Yeah,
you know, it's like pure radioactive beam. I don't know what it is, but like, and he just like he's in there, and you see him charging up, and then it just goes insane.
He's a fire in his laser.
And it just goes everywhere, and like it goes zoom straight through a building, cuts it in half.
Yeah,
and then they start to come out his back as well, and it's just insane.
Yeah, it's real cool.
Yeah, and that's probably my favorite scene in the whole franchise because I wasn't expecting something that cool as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely, that was like a cool scene, and what's a very talky film otherwise.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I just found out some stuff today. You know the his roar. Mentioned it before. How would you describe the roar? Like if you just had to sort of describe the sound.
It sounds like a freight train.
Yeah.
There's like an initial kind of blast that sounds like how you'd imagine a lion or the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park roaring, and then there's like a few layers of audio to it, which end in sounding like a freight train's just past you.
Would you say so? You'd say it has two definite sounds. Yeah, because it's sort of described as disyllabic, which like as opposed to monosyllabic. There's definitely two syllables, and the way in like Godzilla comics, it's the onomatopoeia is skreeeeonk, skreonk. That's the official onomatopoeia.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
So it's the official onomatopoeia. But and as we all know as well, the sound was made by dragging a resin coated leather glove over the strings of a double bass.
We've come so far.
Do you know how they created it in the 2014 film?
I've heard before, but I've forgotten. So tell me.
Well, I was hoping you could tell me because the the sound editors have refused to disclose how they did it.
It's like an adapted version of the
I think they took the original, but they've like recorded sounds that they use like microphones that can record sounds that are like inaudible to the human ear, and then like remix them. But they refused to say what it's based on. But they said that.
Do you think it's maybe something embarrassing, and that's why they're not telling it?
It's like his tummy rumbled.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently the two syllables, they described it as the first one expresses fury and the second one conveys the character's soul.
Yep, I agree with that. It's like a song. It's like he's singing.
Yeah, because it's like a and then but they keep the same cadence and everything.
It's like a scree and then an
Yeah. So yeah, you've spoken a little bit about the design of Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
Shin Godzilla, fun fact, is actually the tallest Godzilla's ever been, beating out 2014's one by 10 meters. So it's 118 meters tall in Shin Godzilla, and because like Legendary were like, ours is going to be the biggest one you've ever seen, and then Shin was like, no, ours is going to be the biggest one you've ever seen. But I read a really cool quote from Gareth Edwards, and I feel like you'll like this. And so the 2014 design for the monster, he's a lot bigger, and there was a lot of controversy around the time that, you know, since when did this become more attractive than this?
Yeah.
With Godzilla's. And Gareth Edwards said, when designing their character, he said, the way I tried to view it was to imagine Godzilla was a real creature, and someone from Toho saw him in the 50s and ran back to the studio to make a movie about the creature and was trying their best to like remember it and draw it, and then our movie is actually showing that creature.
I do like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a really cool way to... It's kind of arrogant, but I like it.
Yeah, it's like... I mean, I guess it's more... They didn't have the tools to show what he actually looks like, whereas we do now.
Yeah.
Not like Toho couldn't, you know...
Sure,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I said, these are the 2014 is CGI, whereas, you know, 90% of the other Godzillas are all suits.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like... This is... Both Japan and America showing what they can do when they use all their toys,
and good. Yeah, this is a great. These are a great two films to end Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. So, should we talk about... There's a couple of flaws in...
Should we go through... Should we rewind a little bit and go through film by film?
All 31?
All 2.
Okay.
So, like, just so we can have a bit of, like, so we can say... We can talk about Godzilla 2014 without the implications of Shin Godzilla.
Yeah,
and then,
so.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, just 2014. So, I've spoken before on the podcast about Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. He's a good actor. He seems fine in real life. But, man, he is just, like... a powerhouse of lacking charisma in this film.
And it wouldn't be so noticeable if he's the literal replacement for Bryan Cranston, one of the best actors working at the moment.
Yeah.
Like the emotion that Bryan Cranston puts into every role is like, you know, phenomenal, or at least it was in 2014, you know, coming right off the back of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, like he did Godzilla months afterwards and had to wear a wig.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So, yeah, Bryan Cranston leads the film for the first 30 minutes and then is killed off in like a relatively lame way. And it's like it wouldn't be so bad if Aaron Taylor Johnson was the main character if this was all we got, but it's like it showed us something. It showed us a really cool character. Or not necessarily a cool character, but an intriguing character. Yeah,
an interesting emotional arc. So, and as you stated at the start of the film, he basically has to kill his wife to save Japan.
Yeah. So he's at the door, like the blast doors, as a massive explosion is coming up the hallway, and he has to make the decision whether he leaves them open and lets his wife run out because his wife's inside the hallway, and kill everyone, or kill his wife and... By closing the blast doors,
sealing her fate,
yeah, and saving Japan, and of course he chooses to do the latter. And
because who would choose the first? Because you're going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
It would kill you on impact.
Yeah, and she agrees. It's just not like she's like, "How could you do that?" Like,
she says, "I didn't make it."
Yeah, we're not going to make it. So,
yeah. But then because he set her down there as well, he said they're not going to let you go down there, so don't wait for me to ask. Just go.
Yeah.
And then
so the next 15 years are him trying to like make amends for it. It's him trying to figure out what happened, and then just as he gets like one scene away from truly finding out what happened,
that he was right as well.
Yeah. There's a shot of him being zipped up in a body bag that is so quick and so kind of dark. The lighting is so dark that when I first saw the film, I didn't click that Bryan Cranston had died.
Yeah, he like, and then there's. Like if you do something like this, like this can work in a film.
Sure, Psycho's a great example.
Yeah, but like you need to that death would need to carry emotional weight throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Like Ford Brody, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, does not feel his dad's death on his
he doesn't
shoulders.
like his dad.
Yeah, but like he just
no one mourns for his loss because everyone thought he was a crazy man.
But then he was right.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw an interview with Bryan Cranston this morning where he talks about how he thinks it was a narrative mistake to kill off that character. He said, like, it's not... Yeah, basically saying, removed from me playing it, he said, no matter who plays that character was so important to the story, and it was a narrative mistake to kill him off. But then he went on to be like... But, you know, it's a good film. I'm not saying, you know...
It is, watching it a second time... Having it been from memory the like main thing I didn't like when I saw it the first time, I genuinely think it, for like lack of a better word, it kind of ruins the film. And spoilers for Kong Skull Island here. Skip 15 seconds if you don't want to spoil for Kong Skull Island. It'll probably take me longer than 15 seconds. Similar thing happens.
The spoiler at exactly 15 seconds now.
Similar thing happens with John Goodman's character in Kong Skull Island, because John Goodman is sort of like he's kind of the Bryan Cranston of that film in terms of like his purpose for the character, and there are a lot more charismatic characters within Kong Skull Island than there are in Godzilla. But his death, he's killed by a skull crawler about probably 3/4 of the way through the film, probably a bit short of it, like over halfway, but not by far like from the home stretch. Like he dies before the climax.
Yeah.
And he dies because they're walking around and he's taking photos with his flash camera, and then it's not working, and he like points it at his face to try and get it to work, and it flashes in his face, and then he hears like a rumble, and he just goes, "Oh shit!" And then the skull crawler monster comes down and eats him, and it's so like that's not a bad way to kill off a character, but until this point, John Goodman was the selfish, tragic, against all odds, I'm going to get my information character. He wasn't a good guy, wasn't a likable character, but an important character who could have still died, but it needed to hold more resonance. It needed to have a bigger... You didn't necessarily hate him, but it's all his fault. So it's like, he deserved a death that was maybe towards the ending of the film. Yeah. So similar things in both movies.
Yeah, because I haven't seen Kong Skull, and so I can't back you up on that, unfortunately. But... sorry if you only skipped ahead 15 seconds and you heard all of that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There, AJ. But yeah, so
I don't care, but it's interesting. But to your point, it's like there are examples. We're not saying that Bryan Cranston's character couldn't have died in Godzilla. Not even that he couldn't have died and been replaced with a character. It's just the way he does it is like the worst way you could do it.
Yeah, like it's nothing to do with like, oh, you're killing my favorite character or anything like that. Like, there's so many ways you can do it, but it's just so unceremonious, and then it has no effect on the rest of the film.
Yeah,
but it just leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And also, like, because the film was marketed as like starring Bryan Cranston, because it was coming hot off the last season of Breaking Bad.
Yeah. It was very much a Cranston vehicle.
But then, yeah, I mean, which is like, again, there's ways to make that work. Like, it's cool when you manage to market a film without revealing who the main character is.
Yeah,
like, kudos to you if you manage.
But then when the main character is Aaron Taylor Johnson,
yeah, just like doing the opposite of every fun role you've ever seen him in.
Yeah.
He's like the anti-Angus Thongs and Perfect... No, his character in this film embodies Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging.
Okay.
Because it's terrible.
Okay. Well, I mean, his other bigger role would be Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
And Kick-Ass works because you're, like, so related to him. Like, he's such an everyman in it. Like, he's the definition of, like, the nerd we all see ourselves as.
Yeah.
And so it works in that, and it's like they don't give him anything. He's just a leading man. Describe Aaron Taylor Johnson's character for me.
He's the army guy, and he cares for a kid at one point. And
he's white. I mean, not to say he shouldn't have been white, but like already like there's something distinctly basic about him. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool, a strong, thick-necked white guy.
His neck is so thick in this film. Like, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because his neck is insane. Like, his head just goes straight down.
Yeah,
I described that terribly, but if you had a visual,
he looks like a cucumber with arms.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But then, and it's just one of those things. It's like his whole plot is just, I'm here. You know, what can I do?
Yeah.
And then the people are like, oh, we're doing this Halo jump, which I guess you can do.
Yeah.
Do you know what Halo stands for?
No.
High altitude, low opening.
Oh, yeah.
So high altitude jump, but then you open your parachute real low.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Shut up. Yeah, I've been in the army.
Yeah. So that, I mean, we're not breaking new ground by saying that's the main problem with Godzilla 2014.
What's your problem that you think only you see?
No, I don't know if I have one. Do you have one?
No.
I could make something up. Like, it's not going to be genuine, though.
All right, yeah, just the human characters hold no weight, really, apart from Bryan Cranston. Like, his scenes at the start when he's, like, closing the door on his wife could be so cheesy, and they are a little cheesy. But, like, man, he sells it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, do you think they replaced him because there's that Hollywood mentality that you can't have like your hero has to be like early 30s at the oldest. You know, like you can't have Bryan Cranston at, you know, in the mid 50s be your
60.
hero. Yeah. Because you could, and it'd be interesting if he was.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just keep him around for a bit longer. Well, I mean, yeah, it's like you say, we're not breaking any new ground here.
I think what I would like to maybe touch on as well is I'm starting to think that maybe Gareth Edwards isn't actually that great of a director.
Oh, yeah?
Because if you look at the response to the Godzilla film he did and the response to Rogue One, both are like, they're negative, like slightly negative, but no one would call either of those films bad movies.
Yeah.
But they would talk your ear off about the flaws.
Problematic.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe that's something, like he's only directed 3 films, and maybe we're going to find out that he's actually like kind of a not as hot shot as he initially
projected. Maybe he's a just another Neil Blomkamp.
Another M. Night Shyamalan. That's not fair. I like more of M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, nah. He's got some stuff. I was going to mention as well, Ken Watanabe's in this film.
Yep.
As well as like the token Asian guy.
Yep.
The wise Asian that's like been around the block.
Mm-hmm.
And his character's name is Ashiro Serizawa. Some of you may remember that Serizawa was the name of the scientist that detonated the oxygen destroyer in the 1954 film, sacrificing his own life to kill Godzilla. And Ishiro Honda directed that film, so that's where that name comes from. Could also be Ichiro, the little boy with the tight pants from Destroy All Monsters.
Ah, true. Right. Do you think it's the same character?
I like to think so. That can be our official headcanon now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Well, because in
Deal.
Wait, no, in Destroy All Monsters, the monsters only exist in his dreams. Oh no, Godzilla exists actually, so it's not like that doesn't work. Never mind. All right, cool.
All right, okay, cool. All right. Anything more to say about 2014?
No, I think
I can talk your ear off about it, but let's
I've said all I need to
Shin
say.
Godzilla.
All right.
Okay, so Shin Godzilla, interestingly, so Godzilla's been around for, you know, God knows how many years. 62. And it's always been like, you know, he's a fan favorite of Japan. I'm trying to think of something to fully equate him to in like our culture. Like
outrageous fortune. No,
yeah, well, not necessarily like New Zealand culture, but like Western culture.
Yeah, like Batman, you know?
Yeah, like Batman. He's like Batman. You know, like good films, but, you know...
James Bond.
Yeah. So, to everyone's surprise, Shin Godzilla got nominated for the Japanese Academy Award for Best Picture.
Wow.
And ended up winning it.
Wow.
And took home a total of 7 awards. It was nominated for 11. It won Best Picture, as well as Best Director, Cinematography, Art Direction, Lighting Direction, Sound Recording, and Film Editing.
Wow.
And also a winner that night, Best Foreign Language Film went to Sully. Probably the only award it got. The Japanese love Clint Eastwood.
Do they? I don't think Clint Eastwood loves the Japanese, so that's...
Why do you say that? Are you just basing that on Gran Torino?
I'm basing that on the narrative I don't know enough about, that he's an old racist conservative.
Right. But, well, I mean, he made Letters from Iwo Jima.
That's true. You know what? I'm the racist. Again, once again, I'm the racist.
Yeah, so... and Ishiro Honda, that I mentioned just before, he died in 1993, but it was revealed in 2012 that he, at some point before his death, like left a note that said Shin Godzilla, and it was plans for a Godzilla film where he can like split up and multiply into smaller versions of himself. So it's interesting that the guy who created Godzilla essentially,
and that vaguely is alluded to in the movie.
Yeah,
that he can, not really vaguely. It is alluded to, but doesn't happen. Shall we talk about...
talk about that. So Godzilla has a total of 5 forms in this movie, or like 4.5 forms in this movie. So starts off, you see him, he's just like an eel, and they think it's a tail. And then he comes out of the water, and he's like, you know that gif of a cat where it's like the head's still, but its body's wiggling from side to side.
Yeah.
And he moves like that.
Yeah,
and he's kind of like a lying down.
With big circular eyes.
Yeah.
He looks kind of silly.
And then basically the next form is like that stood up.
Yeah.
But like he's still kind of weird looking. And then the fourth form is like charcoal black, because he's kind of orangey before that.
Yeah.
It's like rust colored, I guess you'd say. And then he's like charcoal black, got the red highlights. He's huge, and that's Godzilla, you know.
Yeah.
And then the fifth kind of hinted at form is the last shot of the film. They've frozen Godzilla in place,
as if he looked into the eyes of Medusa herself.
and the shot pans up his tail, and we see that it's splitting apart, with these like humanoid. Like people clutching onto skeletons, like clutching onto it, and they all have dorsal fin plates on their backs.
Yeah.
So, and they talked about earlier on in the film that they're like, oh, he's gonna be able to create smaller versions of himself.
Yeah.
Were they going to be humanoid?
Well, we'll find out in what will probably be the sequel to Shin Godzilla, right?
Well, yeah. Okay, so there is a. They're calling it the Toho reboot series at the moment.
I don't like that.
Because as I mentioned 2 episodes ago, that Emperor Heisei is the failing health, and so he's looking at potentially, there's rumours of him abdicating at the end of next year. Mm-hmm. And so if they make another sequel and then a bunch of them, most of them will come out in the timeline of this new ruler, this new emperor. And so, I mean, I guess it could just be called that. But who knows? There's no real plans for a Shin Godzilla sequel at the moment. Okay. The cast are keen. Hideaki, I hope I said that right again. Anno has said it's up to Toho, basically. Toho's created a brain trust type thing called the Godzilla Conference, or GodziCon. They meet up to discuss sequels. And someone at the GodziCon has said they can't do a sequel until 2020. So I think they're waiting for MonsterVerse to wrap up, potentially. Because MonsterVerse, the Godzilla vs. Kong and the legendary MonsterVerse comes out in 2020. So I guess that makes sense to be what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't really... Even though the last shot is very much like ooh, what's this? It didn't beg for a sequel, I thought.
But I want to see the implication
of just a frozen 118 meter tall Godzilla in the middle of the city.
And with I was more meaning that he'd have humanoid Godzilla monsters coming off.
But there is a Netflix movie coming up, an anime movie called Godzilla Monster Planet that comes out in November. It's going to be released on Netflix worldwide, and it's going to have 2 sequels. So it's like a trilogy. That's like an official trilogy they're planning. So that's also, I guess, part of this Godzilla, the Toho reboot series.
It's getting less and less clear, I guess. It's interesting that they're going anime, and it took them this long. But with that being said, Shin Godzilla looks like a live action anime.
It
character.
does, yeah.
He's got the eyes of that dude from Death Note. That's what it reminded me of. The big angel from Death Note.
Oh, Ryuk.
Yeah.
And actually it's funny as well that the Monster Planet Godzilla is confirmed to be even bigger. So they're just going bigger and bigger. But the plot of Monster Planet is essentially that humans have left Earth, and Godzilla and Anguirus and all of them are kind of ruling the planet, and then humans are coming back. So it's like it's an idea that would translate well to not being live action.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's cool. I'm sure we'll watch it when it comes out on Netflix.
Yeah. So while we're on the subject of how this franchise is going to be continued,
where are you going with this?
I don't know. I just thought it would be nice to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Now, shall we? Yes.
Yep.
Continue the franchise.
Yeah. Have you got one?
Have you?
I asked you.
I've got one.
Okay. What's your one? Is it a sequel to?
It's a supplementary material to what could be any Godzilla film, and I guess I came up with it while watching the 2014 one.
Right.
It's very simple. It could be like a short film, or I guess like a TV series, or even like a comic book. Like, I don't know. I would like to see a movie, or a story where Godzilla is in the background And so the climax of 2014 Godzilla happens where in the middle of the city. What city is it? Do we know?
San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco. And the like accumulated smog and smoke and everywhere is like made it look like this real like post-apocalypse. There's fire everywhere. Like the primary colors you see are black and red. So like, darkness and fire. I would like to see a story about like a group of survivors huddled up in one of these houses trying to get to safety while a war for the planet between two giant monsters happens in the background, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting. Isn't that kind of Monsters?
No.
I haven't actually seen it, but
Monsters is Monsters definitely about characters. Monsters is a road movie.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's also Gareth Edwards' best movie.
I struggled to come up with a consider the franchise.
Oh my gosh, is this a new precedent for the podcast?
Well, like,
I guess you've already come up with 3, so it's not like
I don't know, because there are so many sequels still already planned. Like, I said to you during Godzilla 2014. I was like, man, do you know what would be cool if the next one was well lit and you could just see everything?
So that's what you want.
Yeah, that's my key to the franchise. Yeah. Because Gareth Edwards said, he's like, if it gets a sequel, I want to do All Monsters Attack. Well, no, just wrong. Am I getting these two mixed up? The one that's not the one with the little kid. The one that's basically just all the monsters going nuts at each other. Oh my god!
Did you just vomit in your mouth? No, it was atomic breath.
My own atomic breath.
It's not because of the sarsaparilla, it's because of the 31 Godzilla films.
Yeah, I've been keeping it in for a month. That film takes place just in like a wasteland, and everyone's just kicking rocks at each other, and it's all well, you can see everything, you can see every imperfection. Real monsters have curves, and just showcase that.
This is what real terror looks like. Okay?
You may not like it, but this is the ideal male monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to do some fan feedback? Have you got any?
I hadn't planned on it.
Well, I know you love it. AJ,
I can do that.
Loves fan feedback. I hate it. I can't stand interacting with fans. Nah, we both love it. Leave a comment.
Yeah, that's true. Recently, we had what, comparatively was a boom in subscribers and like new listeners for us, but in terms of like YouTube in general, I know we don't have a lot, so I'm not ahead, but I quite like seeing what people who we don't actually know in real life have to say.
It's a very welcome change.
Yeah. And like I get like if you are our friend in real life, then please keep telling us. But no, okay. So on last week's episode, which was the Godzilla Millennium series plus the Godzilla 1998 series, Nathaniel Hernandez, if you're listening, says, I thought your episodes were pretty entertaining. I always find it fascinating to see new corners of the Godzilla franchise and hearing their reactions. Keep doing what you're doing. That's cool. I like to think that that's part of our duty as the gatekeepers for franchises, is that we become we peek into these corners, because every franchise we've done has had at least some kind of fan base, and it's like we're stomping in there, stepping on their rosemaries, and like being like, what's this do? and like becoming a part of it.
Yeah, that is really interesting actually that you've read that, because I guess I hadn't really thought about it like that, but it totally is. Yeah, I love going on and reading the Godzilla subreddits and like just seeing like, oh, this is the one that everyone likes, and this is the flaws everyone has with this one, and stuff like that, and
you grow an understanding, and maybe in like a year and a half, 2 years, we could maybe like make it right. I'm not saying we're going to do this. I'm saying we could. This is what my goal is for this podcast.
Yeah,
is like maybe we could write an essay on a franchise. And this is how we're doing it, is we're learning through doing these big ones and these small ones and learning what people respond to, what they don't respond to.
Yeah, and I like as well that these are franchises that are still going. So like, I'm going to go to Godzilla King of the Monsters and I'm going to get every reference.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's cool. Like, it's just this extra like pop culture string I have on my bow now.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. David Gibbs says, "Hey, Cult Pop Show, please do Gamera franchise film. I would recommendation show a series on Shout Factory and hear Link talk about Gamera documentary."
I think if we can, we're going to be trying to stay away from the kaiju films for a while.
Yeah, but he did link a documentary about Gamera. Found out Gamera was a giant turtle through skimming through that. I'll try watch that, David. Not at the moment, but maybe once the the tides have loosened a bit.
Tides have loosened.
David Brown, our favourite. Number one commenter on Cult Pop Show podcast, David Brown says, "I understand that you guys are getting tired of the Godzilla franchise." This is in reference to us saying that we were over it last week. And I get it, watching a whole series in one day is going to get boring, but it can be a bit fun. Also, you missed a refresh in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. That refresh, I think it means reference, was about the War of the Gargantuas, which is a sequel to Frankenstein vs. Baragon. Yes, a giant Frankenstein is welcome to the Toho universe. So that's kind of exciting. I mean, I'm not going to watch it, but it's I like that
I've
it
seen
exists.
references to Frankenstein being a Toho property as well. And I think in like Germany, these films are all just called like Frankenstein versus, because to them, just Frankenstein means creature,
Right.
and like or maybe they're called King Kong over there. One of them, and they're like
You
somebody
said
calls,
King Kong the other week.
yeah, I think maybe it's in like Spain or Italy or something like that. They call it
Right.
Frankenstein.
And Brent Taylor, our friend from Texas, once again replied, and he said, "Thanks for the shout out, guys. I'm sad, however, to hear that all Kiwis are executed on their 100th birthday." This is us talking about that last week. And he said, "I hope the New Zealand government addresses this atrocity."
There's an election coming up soon.
There's an election coming up, and you know what? We need our own Godzillian New Zealand franchise that like parallels what's happening in the government. You know, like, where's our giant monster that represents the flag change? You know, like, where's the housing crisis manifested?
Where's like the Todd Barclay scandal?
Those are all the comments on Godzilla. But we got comments on a very old video before Richard even joined Cult Pop Show. Actually our second ever video on Cult Pop Show, which was me talking to the screen for 10 minutes about Batman. It's called "Is Too Much Batman a Bad Thing?" Phil Shively says, "Although I'm sick of Batman films, Arkham Origins is my favourite Arkham game and is the best boss battle introduced me to Firefly, Copperhead and Anarchy." And he also said, he said, "Yes, I'm personally sick of the goddamn Batman." So thank you, Phil. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, both Davids, and thank you, Nathaniel.
Yeah, we love getting comments. Keep them coming in. You'll probably get a shout out.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to do something in a completely different order from we've ever done it?
Okay.
And as we're getting towards the end of the podcast, should we look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores?
Yes, absolutely.
And how these films are rated. So, as you said, Godzilla 2014, most people would agree it's good, but everyone's got their problems with it.
Yeah.
So that has a critic score of 74% and an audience score of 66%.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so like critically, it's like, it's objectively, it's like you can look at it and be like, this is a well-made film, but audiences have their problems with it. Shin Godzilla has a critic score of 84% and audience score of 75%.
Yeah.
So across the board, considered a better film.
Yeah, neither of them are like wowza, but they're taking the franchise in a cool direction.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Richard. Of all 31, what is your favourite? Of all 31 Godzilla films that you and I have seen them all, like a couple of losers with no social life. I have rejected hanging out with people because I needed to watch these films. Like, what one made it all worth it, if any of them?
I would say my favourites would be Gojira, 1954, Godzilla vs. Biollante, Godzilla 2014, and Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, it's like the first one and the last one were worth it, and everything else in between was like... like
it's just context.
imagine
and the two of them are so removed from anything else.
Yeah, imagine you're having dinner, right? And then you eat your chicken first, and then you got to go through like your silver beet and your beans and all that, and then you get dessert at the end. And it's like, I shouldn't have eaten the chicken first. That's what every franchise is like. It's like they ate the best thing first.
Yeah, but then most franchises you don't get a dessert. You just kind of have to go to bed.
Yeah.
Sometimes prematurely. Sometimes you haven't even finished your meal, like Divergent, and then they're just like, you have to go to bed.
So, I guess now we're going to, much like Shin Godzilla, resurge an old dusty thing we used to do on this podcast quite a lot.
Yeah, every episode.
And for the people who have discovered us because they like Godzilla...
welcome to what this podcast is actually about.
So this is a segment that we like to call Franchise Roulette. And what we're going to do here is we're going to play a random number generator, which is going to give us a number out of, I can't remember how many. Under 300, but
282.
282. And that's going to give us a number. And we've got a Google Doc that has all the movie franchises that we could think of sprawled out on there. And whatever number this number gives us is going to be what we're covering in the next fortnight. Richard, what are you praying for? What do you hope it's going to be?
I had this vision the other day because I had Daddy Wasn't There stuck in my head. That we get Austin Powers.
That'd be cool.
And I was really happy.
That'd be cool.
It's 3 films. They're light. They're fun.
There's nice cleans.
There's a lot to talk about with them.
Yeah.
They're, oh god, it's just rife for a continue the franchise.
Yeah.
And so I mean,
and I as much as I would also like Austin Powers, or I don't know, maybe like Batman, or something that we can get real into and really enjoy. I kind of see the comedy, and if we got like James Bond next, that'd be pretty funny. So let's do it, man. This is exciting.
All right.
23.
23.
23.
This has been so long since we've done this.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
It's a 2-film franchise.
Okay.
Nymphomaniac.
Oh, no! they came out at the same time as well.
No, they released a little bit. But it's one film split into 2.
Like Kill Bill.
Yeah. They're on Netflix.
Nymphomaniac. All right. Okay. What a sharp left-hand turn from Godzilla into the world of Nymphomaniac, directed by Lars von Trier.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Lars von Trier film.
Well, you're about to.
I'm about to get
full von Trier.
Raw dog Lars von Trier.
We should instead of watching them on Netflix, we should track down the full uncensored versions.
All right.
Where they spliced in porn.
Did they?
Yeah, they got porn actors to have sex full frontal, and then digitally put Shia LaBeouf on it.
Our second Shia LaBeouf franchise.
Yeah. I'm so glad it's only 2 films.
Yeah. All right, and I'm hosting this one, so I'm going to get entrenched in Nymphomaniac. Oh my gosh, what a hilarious thing! What a hilarious series to get. I'm ready for it.
All right, I'm going to take that off the list now.
Thank you very much for listening to all of this, everybody. David Brown, please keep listening to episodes. You specifically, because I know you found us because of Godzilla, but I actually really enjoy your input. So please don't be like, oh, they did Godzilla, I'm out. Listen to our old ones, comment on them, and I love reading out comments from you. Same with you, Brent. Thank you. Brent found us after Beethoven. So did a few other listeners. Please keep listening. And as we said last week, tell your friends. And if you liked this, you can actually find us on a few other platforms doing a few other things. Richard, where can people find us?
What?
I'm throwing to you, buddy.
Okay.
I believe in you.
You just mean Facebook and stuff, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. You can find us on Facebook, Cult Popture, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes.
We are on Twitter, but
yeah.
We don't update much on Twitter.
Very much. We usually just use it to follow people and be like, man, we should ask them to be on the podcast. But then realise that, our chances are slim. cultpoptionmedia@gmail.com if you want to email us.
Send us a wee email.
Yeah, send us a cheeky wee email.
Yeah, and yeah, rate and review us on iTunes. If you don't know how to do that, you got to search Cult Pop Show on iTunes, and then that'll let you rate and review. That apparently really helps, and it's so difficult to figure out how to do. So if you are listening, and you want that, then that's you want to help us. That's the way to do it. And yeah, please keep listening and keep commenting, keep giving us feedback. It'd be great. We did it, man.
We did it.
This is the end of Godzilla.
All right, you finished your sarsaparilla?
I'm not even halfway.
I finished mine.
Man, it's weird. Do you know it's a profound feeling that you get? Like we get it with every franchise, but especially watching these ones. Yeah. It's weird watching a movie and knowing I am never gonna watch this movie again.
Yeah,
I'm gonna die before I see all monsters attack again. You know?
I could see myself watching...
I can watch a couple of them again.
Yeah, I'm never going to watch Hedorah the Smog Monster.
I'm not going to go to a Godzilla marathon, and watch a bunch of them. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
We love you.
Sorry if this episode was a little bit, less enthusiastic, but...
We'll be rock hard for the next one, so... that'll be very exciting. That's probably going to be like a bit of a R18 episode.
Probably. They're probably going to say penis
and seminal fluid.
Oh, yeah, no, you took too far, AJ.
Well, all right. Thank you. Goodbye.